Have you ever wanted an AI to swear at your chat?
Well, looks like we've got a desperate one in the chat. How do I like my men? Not desperate like you, that's for damn sure.
Maybe go deaf from people spamming sound alerts?
And his name is John C.
Or maybe you just want someone to turn you upside down. Well, I have good news for you. ChaosBot, formerly VT Chaos, has been updated to have a whole bunch of new features, and it looks so much better than before. We've changed a bunch of the Vtubing side of the app, added a point system like Twitch channel points, and have integrated ChatGPT to respond with Azure and 11 Labs AI voices for your chat to use with text-to-speech. We've got a lot of ground to cover here, so I'm going to split things up between the VTuber specific side of things and the rest of the AI and text-to-speech functionality, but first, we got a word from our sponsor. It's me, I'm the sponsor. With Raecords, our copyright free to use music for whatever type of project you might want, whether you need stream background music, maybe a track for an upcoming video game, or even just something to listen to, Raecords has got you covered. You can listen to it on Spotify or YouTube, or you can find it on Ko-fi, downloadable for free. This has been a major passion project of mine over the last year and a half, and we're actually about to approach our 100th copyright-free song. We've got 15 more songs coming out before the end of the year, spread across different types of genres, so you'll be able to find whatever you need. Now, let's dive into ChaosBot. For VTubers, ChaosBot right now only works with Live2D and Vtube Studio specifically. If you're using any other type of modeling program, it's just not going to work. In order to connect ChaosBot to Vtube Studio, you're going to need to make sure that the Vtube Studio API is turned on. You can find that by clicking on the gear, going to the first tab, and scrolling down to Vtube Studio plugins and turning it on. Once that's turned on, you're going to go back into ChaosBot and click Connect Vtube Studio. You'll see a pop-up in Vtube Studio, just click Allow, and from there, you'll see another little pop-up that shows your authentication key. You don't really have to keep track of that, the program will take care of it for you. But from then on, ChaosBot will try to connect to Vtube Studio on its own, and you should only ever have to do this step once. We then move to the next tab, Vtube Studio, which has two sub-tabs, hotkeys and movement keys. To begin with the hotkeys, you simply click Create Hotkey, and you'll see it appear in the list. There is no limit to the number of hotkeys you can create, and you can delete them at any time. If you haven't created any hotkeys in Vtube Studio yet, nothing is going to show up here. And if you've created a hotkey since ChaosBot was open, you'll need to click the refresh button to repopulate the list and have it become selectable. From here, we have the on-off button, which controls whether or not your chat can trigger that hotkey, the point cost, which I'll go into a little bit later, the cooldown in seconds, so if you don't want your chat to be able to spam it, and you can choose to let only members trigger that effect. Make sure after any changes you make to these, you click save, or else the changes obviously won't save. Once everything's set up the way that you like, you can click test and that will trigger the hotkey. Movement keys are a little similar. To make a new one, you click create hotkey. You can give it a name, a cooldown, a point cost, turn it on or off, but this one has a few more options. Movement duration is time in seconds, so if you put 1, that means the entire movement will happen across 1 second. Position X and position Y are where your model is on the screen. Rotation controls your rotation, and size goes from a minimum of -100 to a maximum of 100. All of these values can be set to be relative to your model by clicking the Relative to Model button. What that means is when relative to model is set to false, if the hotkey says position 5, that means the literal position 5 in Vtube Studio. If relative is set to true, then it moves your model 5 units over. That's a little bit different on everybody's models, but you'll want to test out all the features for yourself. Just as an example, I've created my flip hotkey, which rotates me 180 degrees in half a second and is relative to my model. If I turned the relativity off and tried to test it again, it would change my size and position, but not my rotation because I'm already at 180 degrees. If I set it back to true, I would flip again. I would also recommend creating a reset button. If for no other reason than to save your own sanity, you can click the current position and it will record your model's exact X, Y, rotation, and size coordinates. So if your model gets moved around a bunch and you want it put back into the place that you like it to be every time, you can create the reset, and then just hit it whenever you want. The third tab is sound effects. Like the other two, you create hotkeys by pushing the button. You can name it, give it a point cost, turn it off or on, make it members only, but with this one, you select a file. This will open a window allowing you to select a sound file, which is either MP3 or WAV from anywhere on your computer, and be able to play it through the program. If you, however, move that file later, you will have to reconnect it by clicking select file and finding it again. Now we get into the fun stuff. Text-to-speech acts like most streamers you've seen text-to-speech. The difference here is you can decide where that text-to-speech comes through. You will see a drop-down list of every speaker device that is on your computer. You can change it to whatever is your default. This is just one of many different ways to add a chat pet to your stream, but we'll cover that in its own video. You may then choose from 7 different Google accents, but you can add hundreds more if you choose to integrate Azure and 11 Labs AI voices. To set up Microsoft Azure, you will need an Azure account. Once that's done, you'll need to create a speech service resource, which is done by going to Speech Services and then clicking on Create in the top left-hand corner. You can name it, give it a resource group. I've already created one named TTS, but you'll have to make a new one if this is your first time doing it. Then select your instanced region, which is just whatever one you're closest to. Give it a name. In my case, I'm using ChaosBot TTS Test. And then select your pricing tier. Free gives you 500,000 characters for free every month, which translates to a lot of TTS spam. I've rarely broken that even when I've let chat go completely wild. But you can see what the pricing entails right here. Once you're done, click Review and Create. Click Create again, wait for the deployment to finish. This might take a couple minutes. Once it's done, click Go to Resource. And now you'll be able to see your API keys and region. Now we're going to put those into ChaosBot. Copy key 1 and put it into your API key, and then you can just copy the region as well and put it into region, and then click Save. If you've done everything correctly, you will see a list of names populate and you're good to go. You can now go through and pick any type of voice you want. Just make sure you hit save after you select a voice. And if that voice has different types of inflections, you will see them appear in this active tone box. Some of them have a lot, some of them only have a couple, many of them have none. So just play around until you find something you like. Once you find one you think you'll enjoy, you can go back to the TTS tab and then try a test one.
Hello.
You do have to make sure that it's on though.
Hello.
Before we cover the last 2 tabs, we're going to go back to the Connections tab. This is how everything works. In order for Chaos to function, for your chat to be able to interact with it, you need to connect it to a live stream. How do you do that? It's quite simple. You just hit Connect Live Stream and then pull the live stream address found here if you're in Vtube Studio, or here if you're on the actual live stream, and paste it into the box. If everything works, you'll see a success, and this will change from offline to online, and you'll start to see chat messages appearing in the last chat message window. All chat has to do to trigger it is to type exclamation mark and whatever you've named the hotkey. So in our little example here, they could type in exclamation mark boom, and it would play Vine Boom, triggerable once every 180 seconds, because that's what we set it to. Remember, if the button is set to off though, no one can trigger it but you. This now leads into the second to last tab, the Points tab. Whenever anyone chats any message, they get some points. There's a big whole formula behind it, but it basically accounts to 2 points per minute if people are chatting somewhat regularly. You can refresh the chat points anytime to see how much anyone in particular has, and if you want your chat members to be able to see their points, you can click the Show Hide Chat window, where you will see the username and points pop up, and if they type in exclamation mark points, their name will briefly flash on screen for a second and then disappear. You can change the text color and the background color by either putting in the names of colors or their hex code numbers, and you can always hide this at any time. The points still work whether or not that window is shown. Points just serve as another way to limit the uses of certain functions. For instance, if you want your Vine Boom effect to have no cooldown, make it so that not everyone can trigger it. You could set the point cost to 500 and it would take someone a couple hours of watching your stream in order to actually redeem it. There's a lot more that I want to do with this feature for now, but this is what it ties into for the entire program. The last tab I want to talk about is the AI tab. This is the portion that will let your chat ask a question to ChatGPT and have it respond. In order to do this, you must have an account with ChatGPT and have an API key. Thankfully, this is pretty easy. All you're going to do is go to the OpenAI platform. Link will be in the description. Click on API and then click on Login. And if you already have an account, you can just sign in. But if you don't, simply create an account. And then once you're in, you're going to go to the top right, click on Personal, go to View API Keys, and then create a new secret key. Once it's done, it will generate a key. Just copy that in, go back to ChaosBot, and paste that in the API key section. I'd also write this down somewhere because once you close this window, you can't see it again, but you can create a new key later. Now, this does cost a little bit of money to use, but we're talking maybe a couple cents per stream. During July, which is when I first developed this and used it the most, I ended up paying 25 cents during the entire month. So just keep that in mind. Once you've got that all set up, you can give your bot a personality and kind of describe how you want them to respond, and then you can also give them an accent or maybe even a vocal tick. So far, I've had great success getting it to talk like a pirate, valley girl, talk like an elementary school teacher, or just outright cuss out chat. Honestly, that one's my favorite. Finally, we have the 11 Labs tab, which again will require an account to set up. This one's a little bit more expensive, but lets you get really crazy with your AI voices, allowing you to copy friends, celebrities, or just make really weird abominations that you can use at your leisure. I'm not going to show you how to create those custom voices. Honestly, there's a lot of people who have done that way better than I ever could, but I will link them down in the description if you want to see that. For now, all you have to do is create an account, select a plan, which they usually have a $1 option if you're just trying it out for a month, so it doesn't cost too much to get into, and then you put in the API key, click save. Once you do, you'll see all the voices that are on your account that you get to pick from. Choose one, click save, and then go back to control to make sure both ChatGPT and 11 Labs are on. Once you do, you can ask the AI a test question, and if you hear a response back, it's working. If not, please join the Discord and tell me, because that means I didn't bug fix correctly. You should probably do that anyways. Last but certainly not least, if you do have Azure configured and you have 11 Labs configured, TTS will try and use whatever is active in the following order. If 11 Labs is turned on, it will try to use that. If Azure is turned on, but 11 Labs is turned off, it will try to use Azure. If both 11 Labs and Azure are turned off, it will try to use its default TTS settings. The last thing I want to mention here are compatibility issues and where to find it. I built this on Windows 10. That's what I've tested it the most on. Pretty sure it'll work on Windows 11, and I've heard from other people that it works on Mac, but I'm only certifying it for Windows 10. As for where you can find it, it's going to be up on Itch or Ko-fi for 10 bucks. Astute observers will notice that I increased the price, but this is the price it's going to stay at for the rest of time. But if you've already purchased it, guess what? You don't have to pay any more. Once again, you come across any bugs, anything that needs to be worked out, I'm still a relatively new developer, so I'll fix problems as fast as I can. But for now, I'll see you later.